Don't be bashful. Come on over here. I won't bite. All right, I think it's just past 1 p.m. We said we would start, so let me begin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Henry Braun. I am the former mayor of the city of Abbotsford, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I'd like to start by acknowledging that the city of Abbotsford is located on the traditional territories of the Seamons, Mathaqui, and Leqamal First Peoples. I am pleased to welcome you here today, along with Abbotsford Mayor Ross Seamons and Mayor Michael Getz of Merritt, and Mayor Spencer Coyne of Princeton for this event. We are also being joined by, and they're all in the room here for the media, so you can seek them out later. We are also joined by the Honorable Pam Alexis. She is going to be a few minutes late, but she is on our way. She's the MLA for Abbotsford Mission. MLA Mike DeYoung, I saw him earlier, haven't said hello, but he is here, and MLA Banman is here as well, and members of City Council, Abbotsford City Council. Councillor Ganzeveld from Seamouth First Nation, as well as representation from the BC Egg Producers Association, BC Dairy, Surrey Board of Trade, Southern Rail, the Indo-Canadian Association of British Columbia, the Indo-Canadian Association of the Fraser Valley. Dr. Joanne McLean is with us here. There she is right there from the University of the Fraser Valley. Abbotsford Chamber of Commerce, Fraser Valley Business Coalition, Tourism Abbotsford, the City of Mission, and also representatives. The Mayor of Chilliwack is here, Mayor Popoff somewhere, and Jason Lum, the chair of the Fraser Valley Regional District, and local farmers who were personally impacted by the 2021 floods. We thank you for being here to support our three communities. To give you an idea of how today's event will unfold, we will hear remarks from Mayor Seamons, followed by Mayor Getz and Mayor Coyne, and that will be followed by a question and answer session for media. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of the City of Abbotsford, Ross Seamons.
Thank you, Henry. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you to my colleagues from Princeton and Merritt. It has now been more than 2.5 years, since the unprecedented flood event of November 2021, which left devastating and lasting impacts on thousands of residents in southwestern British Columbia. The flood caused significant damage to regional, provincial transportation infrastructure, property, and businesses, and severely impacted the agriculture production in the most productive area of Canada. This was the most expensive natural disaster in Canadian history. And for the first time, we witnessed a 9-day closure of key transportation corridor through the Fraser Valley. Across southwest BC, rail lines were disrupted, major highways were closed, some for several months, halting the movement of people, goods, and services. This resulted in severe disruptions to the Asia-Pacific Gateway supply chain, closed the U.S.-Canada border, and devastated businesses, farms, and residents. Here in Abbotsford, we promised our residents that we would do everything possible to make sure that a flooding disaster like this did not happen again. Since the floodwaters receded, we have done just that. We have developed a long-term flood mitigation plan. We participated in numerous meetings, working groups, and consultation sessions. We received wide support from local First Nations, regional stakeholders, industry leaders, and businesses. Many of them are joining us here today to show their tangible support. And we've advocated for the urgent need for our community, making it blatantly clear that we required the financial support of senior levels of government in order to take any further action. Last July, we submitted the federal government-required Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund, or DMAF, application. in support of our long-term flood mitigation solution. We were encouraged to do this by senior levels of government, and we had been optimistic that our application would be accepted. We were told that if the province was on board with our application, and they are, that it would be a positive outcome. To find that our application was denied, that the City of Abbotsford won't be receiving the funding support that we need to protect our community from a future flood disaster, that is brutally devastating news, and shows a blatant disregard of our city, our region, our economy, and quite frankly, a disrespect for the fairness of due process when no community impacted by the 2021 event has been successful. We feel completely abandoned by our federal government. And after hearing that Merritt and Princeton's applications were also denied, we are dumbfounded as to why the federal government has chosen to abandon our communities, our region, and our province. We are here today to demand that the federal government reconsider and to open another stream of funding to give our three communities the help and support that was promised during the flood event. There's nothing more we as municipalities can do. We need the federal government to step up. Without their partnership, we simply are not able to take further critical steps forward, and we lie in wait of the next flooding disaster. I would now like to call upon my friend and colleague, Mayor Michael Getz from the City of Merritt.
Thank you, Mayor Seamons. I'm here today to talk about the flood situation and the denial of our DMAF application. When I became mayor in November, the DMAF had been closed for 13 months. There wasn't even an opportunity to apply for it because it wasn't being funded. We were also led to believe the fact that if we worked with the federal government and got the provincial government on board, that our application would be favorable. Our application is well over 500 pages, covers everything that could possibly go wrong or everything that could possibly happen. To be denied without a one-line letter that says your application didn't cover enough of the information we were looking for. I'm not sure what 500 pages did not cover for you. We have, just so you understand the situation that we're in, if I took you to the dikes of Merritt right now and stood on them, they look exactly the same as they did October 16th, 2021. Not one rock has changed. I have a community that is desperately in need of dikes. I have people that are in desperately need of protection. We don't have any for them. We have a 65% low snowpack, and thank goodness we do. But of course, that's a terrible thing to say because it can bring wildfires. But for Merritt, we needed that because we didn't have a large freshet this year, because I have areas that can't be protected. When they walk out of their door and look at the river, they're actually looking at the river. There's nothing between them and harm's way. It's unacceptable for my citizens to have to go through life like this. This brings PTSD to you. And I speak as someone who was flooded. I was flooded. It took me 12 months to get my home back. 12 months. And I wasn't the only one. And now I'll tell you, not a single person in Merritt cut and ran. Everybody stayed. Everybody rebuilt. I'm proud of my community. I'm proud of what they did. And to be rejected like this with a very little explanation as why it happened is an absolutely slap in the face of Western civilization. I have to wonder if this would happen if we were on the East Coast. I'm not really sure it would have. So I stand here today. I have a lot of other things I'd like to say, but have to be careful. But I will fight as hard for the people of Abbotsford and Princeton as I will for the people of Merritt, because we're all joined. We are all a family now. We have all gone through this. We have all suffered loss. And the last thing we want to see is loss continue. So I request the federal government to rethink the applications, have a bit of a heart, and start helping our communities. And I'll be 100% honest with you. We don't need the money all at once. We can't do all the work in 1 year. I don't know if a lot of you people are aware, but when we start work on the dikes, we only get 10 days out of the year to work on it on a fish window. 10 days, that's it, 10 days. So if you gave me $64 million tomorrow, I couldn't use it all in one go. This is a 4 to 7 year project. So give each community enough to get some work done to start protecting their citizens, because I will not sit quietly and wait for my citizens to have to be evacuated. We were the only community in existence in BC that was completely evacuated at 3:30 in the morning. It's never happened before. And I need to thank the communities of Kamloops and Kelowna for taking us in our toughest times. We were showing up at their doorstep at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they took us in with no questions. And that's what the communities are about. That's what we need to do. So we will move forward with this. There's also a provincial situation, but that's for another day. Right now, this is for federal funding. So like I say, I stand with these communities, and we demand better for our people, because we do pay taxes. We pay taxes to you to take care of our taxes, to give back to us when we need them. I'm not asking for anything that isn't ours. Give us our money back so we can get our community safe. Thank you very much.
As you can tell, a lot of us are pretty upset right now, and I think Mike put it perfectly. Nothing's been done on our dikes. I still have temporary dikes in place in Princeton. We're trying to take them down right now, but it's been 2.5 years and we still have temporary dikes up. The announcement that we're not going to get this money from the federal government has my community right now asking, why us? Where are we supposed to go? Are we even wanted here anymore? These are some pretty heavy questions that I got to go home and answer to. Prime Minister on the floor of the House of Commons said he had our backs. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like Ottawa has our back. It doesn't feel like he has Merritt's back, or Princeton's back, or Abbotsford, or the Fraser Valley, or the Thompson-Nicola, or the Regional District, the Okanagan-Similkameen. We feel kind of left out. This is a hard pill to swallow when we've done everything that we've been asked to do. We worked with the province to come up with these applications. Like Mike said, they're 500 pages. We have engineers on staff that are working on these things day and night. We're doing the consultation with our communities to do what we've been told that we have to do to get this money, and we're still told no, because there's not enough information. Well, how much information do you need? Our rivers flooded in the largest event that we've ever had in this province. It destroyed railroads that have been there for 100 years. It destroyed our highway system. The only highway left open in the province was between Princeton and Merritt and Princeton and Hope. And we barely kept them going. The economy of this country depends on keeping this corridor open. It's time that Ottawa steps up and realizes that we're not just some backwoods place. We're tax-paying citizens. We're part of the economy of this country, and we deserve better. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Coyne, Mayor Getz, Mayor Seamons. To say I'm extremely disappointed these three communities aren't getting the funding support they need is a huge understatement. While these communities were still underwater, the federal government openly pledged to be there to help. Prime Minister Trudeau came to Abbotsford during the height of the disaster and saw the devastation firsthand. While he was here, he promised me, the staff working in the Emergency Operations Center, and Abbotsford residents that we could count on his government to support us. The Prime Minister even gave me a hug at the Abbotsford International Airport just before he left our community and said that his government would provide whatever was needed. I also heard those same promises from Minister Blair during our meetings during and after the flood. And following some announcements over the last year, I felt confident in statements I heard from provincial leaders that signaled we would be getting federal support. All of that then to be told no, help isn't coming, not for Abbotsford, not for Merritt, not for Princeton. I'm flabbergasted. To the people of Abbotsford, and I'm sure it's the same in Merritt and Princeton, to us, a person's word means everything. And we were all counting on senior government to be true to its word and come through with the funding these communities desperately need to prevent a similar disaster from happening again. I implore the Prime Minister and Minister Blair to follow through on your personal words to me. That concludes the speaking portion of today's event. Now I will turn this portion of today's event over to the city to start the Q&A.
Thank you. We are happy to take questions from media. We will start with any media on site and then go to reporters joining us on the line. For reporters on site, please state your name and your outlet. You'll be able to ask one question and one follow-up.
I'm not sure that mic's on, or did you all hear that?
Grace Key with Global BC. So I'm understanding all three communities were told that there simply wasn't enough information. I assume maybe somebody picked up a phone and called Ottawa and said, what information were you missing? And did that conversation take place, and what was the answer?
So we had been told by Minister Sagen that we needed to talk to Minister Sean Fraser. I had tried for 3 months to talk to Minister Fraser to update us on where we were with the DMAF. It took 3 months for me to be able to get a conversation or a Zoom meeting with his parliamentary secretary, Mr. Biddle. When I spoke to MP Biddle, a half hour before that meeting was set up, or before that meeting was to convene, a half hour before, we received word that we were not that our application had been denied. There was no information other than they felt that they didn't have enough information. In that 500 pages, we had hired KWL as our consultant. We had gone through literally months of prep work. And so then when I had that conversation with him, he said, well, perhaps you went the wrong route. And so then I was told that maybe I should be going back to Minister Sagen. And I said, well, Minister Sagen sent me to you. And so then he said, well, perhaps Minister Rodriguez. I am getting the royal runaround. I've been told to go to 3 or 4 different, and no one has been very clear on the challenges that we've had. Our staff have been working, but it's very vague. I'm only left with the impression, and as has been mentioned by my colleagues in Princeton and Merritt, I can't imagine what the response would have been if we would have been on the St. Lawrence Seaway.
It sounds like you're trying to have a reapplication in some way. The application is closed. Is there any funding left?
I've been told that there is no funding in this round, that another round will be opened up again. I don't, my staff will know better, but I believe that round of applications is coming next year. Perhaps my colleague, Mayor Getz, might have some more information on what they were told in their area, but we're getting miscommunication.
As soon as we put our application in July 2nd at midnight, because there'd been nothing for 13 months open at that time. Now, when you have something called DMAF, Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund, when disaster and mitigation are the first 2 things in your ministry, you probably should have some money in it. You probably should have somebody run the thing. So the entire time that we've had this going, we have repeatedly asked the ministry, Minister Sagen, Minister Blair at the time, and all of his help, any kind of response. We have completely been ghosted. There's been absolutely no return whatsoever, absolutely nothing. So they did not return any calls, they did not return any emails, they returned nothing. The only time I got a response is when I was at FCM, and I made a comment that Mr. Blair makes a lot of promises, but he doesn't follow through, and I got a staff member called me up and asked me to retract that off the radio, and I told him that you need to talk minister or elected official, not hired help. I couldn't even get the minister to give me a call on that one. So I would, as far as the Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund is funded with the will to fund it. It is not repetitively funded. It's when they decide to put money in it. Now, I would have been okay to a certain degree if they would have said, hey, you know what? Abbotsford got X, Y, and Z. You guys are in the loop. We'll talk to you a little later. We didn't even get that. We didn't even get, apply next year at this time or next week. Nothing. It's just like, no. And they're talking to my ROC director, Sean Strang, there doesn't look to be any want to have DMAF funded at this point. So basically, the answer to that is, right now, it's no. And no means no. And where does our funding come from? Well, I had a conversation with Minister Blair on the radio at one point in time, and he suggested we go after commercial people to fund us. So I was going to whistle right up to Walmart and see if they wanted to fund 200 feet of dike, and we painted blue and put all those little smiley faces all over it. This is not how you run your country. Your country doesn't run like this. You take my taxes, I expect something back for it. I mean, people lost their livelihoods, their lifetimes, and this is not the way to treat people. We expect to be taken care of, especially when you come and the water is around your ankles and you've got your arm around the mayor saying, we're going to be here for you, and then, no, you're not. So don't make those comments if you can't follow through, because people don't forget.
The reason we all met that last July application date is because we were told, this is it, get it in. So we worked overtime. The province, I don't know about the other communities, but the province sent some people down to Princeton. We sat with them. We went over our application. They said, these are the things that we should put in for DMAF. These are the things that the province can fund. This is other funding. We did all of that stuff because we were told, this is it. There's nothing else on the books right now. So we don't know where to go. We're kind of floundering here because they're the guys with all the money, and now they're saying there's no more money for anybody. I've sat between, Mike Getz and I went and we sat in front of a transportation committee, and we said we need to look at this differently. Through the climate caucus, I've gone in front of a couple senior staff members, and we've asked them to change the way that they look at these things. And we all have to be on the same playing field if we're going to be looking at any sort of mitigation or any works, because some of us aren't even in the same. We're not even on the same playing field as them. I mean, we have to get back to the spot that everybody else is at, but that's not how they come up with these funding formulas. They look at these applications and they forget that, we're still trying to get out of the mess that we're in, and it's frustrating because they don't have anything else there for us. So right now, I'm under the understanding there's nothing. Maybe there's been something that I haven't seen, but we're at, like Mike said, we're at the mercy of when they decide to have another one of these application processes. And if it is, it's not in this budget process.
Hi there, Vicki Hopes with the Abbotsford News. Can you each speak about the specific priority projects in your communities that are not getting done because you do not have this funding?
So we have 1.6 kilometers of diking that needs to be upgraded and brought up. We have our main sewer lift station. It has to be moved, and there's a bunch of erosion. Those are the big ticket ones. There's a bunch of other projects as well. There's a list as long as my arm of other projects, but those are the biggest ones. Without the dikes being raised, we're not going to be protected again. The lift station, we lucked out last time. Our lift station, when it was overcome, it actually stayed open, and everything kept flowing to our sewer ponds. But otherwise, we would have been in the same boat as Merritt. We would have had to evacuate the entire community because we'd have no sewer system. Those are the biggest ones for us, anyways.
Yes, so we have what we call the urgent works, which is $1.6 billion. So the province has come forward because they were very frustrated with the amount of time that it was taking the province or the federal government. So the provincial government and Premier Eby was along with Minister Alexis, and they made that, and Minister Bowen, they made the announcement for the Barrowtown resiliency. The other pieces of that urgent work, the other two pieces of that three-pronged approach are the flood storage and the conveyance system, which is a pump system. And that conveyance system, again, it's a series of pumps as well that will help with irrigation on the west side of the prairie where we don't have irrigation right now. So when those floodgates close, water that's coming over from the Nooksack has nowhere to go. So we need to pump that over. And so those are the two major pieces of the flood mitigation and application. We knew that there was not enough money for all of that, but at least it was going to be significant amount of money that can help us start with the design and some of the other early works before we start the actual construction. But, you know, these pumps are not sitting on a shelf somewhere. These pumps have to be made, and it'll take probably a few years to make. So when we have those commitments, then we can start going after some of the other funding through the province and the federal government. But that was where that's our starting point. And to get denied on your starting point when we have spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on the plan and on everything else that they've put us through. These applications, you have to hire consultants. We hired the best in the province to help us with this application. So there's a significant amount of effort and dollars that have already gone in under their guidance. And then to get a zero like that is very disheartening.
In Merritt, for us, it's diking. We have a lot of diking on both sides of the river that is missing, puts our people in jeopardy. We also have a thing with DMAF that they do not do land buyouts. They will not do that. So we have 21 properties that have to be bought out because we can't build dike on land that we do not own. So for almost 2.5 years, we've had 21 families waiting for a buyout. They can no longer live in their homes. They no longer can be on the land that they were on. So they sit in limbo. We still have Red Cross involved with some of our homeless. At the peak, we had 650 homes affected by this for quite some time. Our floodplain has gone from 130 residents to 1,275. That's a quarter of our community. So diking is the most important thing. It is the safest thing that we can have. Without the diking, unless you've been through it, you have no idea the physical and mental effect it has on you. We have people that have post-traumatic stress that when it rains for 3 days and they hear a siren, they start panicking. My wife is one of them. We lost everything, and we lost more than most. But diking is the most important thing. It is what will bring safety back to our community. The other things are smaller. Now, the province has helped us out on some things. Our bridge, our Middlesbrough Bridge, they've come through with funding for that, and we are appreciative of it. But the federal government needs to show up and join the party at some point in time. But diking is our most important consideration to keep my community safe.
Can you tell me how much each of you had applied for?
We're at about 64 million.
Our total application is just shy of 55 million, and the federal part is about 22, 23, somewhere in there.
And ours was in the neighborhood of 1.6 billion.
We will now go to questions on the line. Just a reminder to reporters to unmute yourself when your name is called. Our first question is from Benoit Ferradini, French CBC.
Hi, I have a question for Mayor Seamons. And so I understand you requested 1.6. Can we know how much the province committed and how much is left? How much do you expect from Ottawa in that 1.6?
Well, I believe your question was how much is left. The province did commit, I believe it was in the $76 million range for the Barrowtown resiliency, which was the most urgent of our works that protects Barrowtown pump station so we don't have to sandbag in the middle of the night. So that would be taken off of the 1.6. But, you know, with inflation, that we're probably back up to 1.6. But this, again, we knew that there was going to be, we would not get the full amount in this particular round, but we knew that that was enough to help us get started on the design work and get the pumps ordered. So, yeah, the province has been there for us when we've needed it. And we need the federal government, as Mayor Getz has said, we need them to step up.
Can I ask another question to Mayor Getz, if possible? If you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So my question is the same as well. You asked for 64 millions. What does the province has committed to already, and what do you really ask to the federal now?
So you have to understand there's two levels. When you're dealing with two levels of government, you're dealing with two different sets of projects. Now, the province has come forward to help us relocate 31 people in temporary housing situation. I do believe that was $24.9 million they came up with. They have also given us $10.5 million to reconstruct our bridge and the dikes around it. So we're somewhere around $30 million on the provincial side. But when I talk about the federal side, I don't throw because there has to be investment from both levels of government. Plus, there also is investment from the city as well. So there's three different streams. So the province has been very good to us to a certain degree. They still have a ways to go. Some promises were made that we're not there yet on. But they've given us, I mean, even if the province gave us $1, it's a lot more than the feds have given us. They haven't given us anything. So we're at about close to $30 million, I think, investment from the province at this point in time.
Okay, our next question is from Tyler Olson, Fraser Valley Current.
Thanks for having me, and sorry I couldn't be here. To Mayor Seamons, having been denied this funding, can you say what the next steps are, and then where this leaves conversations with Washington State and officials south of the border?
Yeah, so actually on Wednesday, I will be going down with members of our staff, and we will be meeting on the transboundary side. And that, again, is a provincial initiative, and we're there with Seamons First Nation, the Nooksack Tribal Council, Whatcom County, the state of Washington, the province of BC, and the city of Abbotsford. The federal government is not at that table. They've been invited, but at this point, they haven't been at that table. So those conversations will continue, and that is really regarding the flow split at Everson and some of what they need to do on their side of the border. Where this leaves us, I mean, we are in a better place. We have rebuilt our dikes, and we have raised them 1/2 meter in key areas, and we've reinforced the dikes. We've done a number of works. So we're in a better spot than we were in prior to 2021. But the advocacy will continue. Part of the advocacy and the reason for this today is to show the support. When we've got Surrey Border Trade, Vancouver Border Trade, we've got the industry leaders, we've got the Port of Vancouver, First Nations, all in the same room, all part of the same news conference, giving letters of support. The advocacy will continue. We don't give up, but this is a step backwards. And the advocacy will continue. We won't let up. Our farmers are resilient. They don't give up. Saying no and doing nothing is not an option.
Tyler, do you have a follow-up?
Thanks, and thanks. If I'm just curious, so if doing nothing isn't an option and the money from the federal government isn't coming, then what does get done, or what can you get done? Would you spend more city funds on these issues? Will you be talking to the province about if they can carry a bigger load? Where do you go then?
Well, I'll speak from the Abbotsford side. So local dollars, this is about provincial food security. This is about national economy. It's about regional trade. So we will be working with the province on next steps. We will not be raising local taxes. We've committed, we're the largest geographic municipality in the province. So raising taxes to pay for a federal or provincial responsibility is not on the table. But the advocacy work will continue. So again, the vital importance to the provincial economy, to provincial food security, to national trade, the Port of Vancouver, all of those, goods that come through there, they don't all flow on rail. We're not expanding rail. So we need to understand the vital importance of these corridors to the provincial economy. So yes, we will be working with the province on some solutions. We will be requiring the province to go to bat for us with the federal government. But the advocacy work will continue. And like I said, we've done some key things in key areas. We will be working with industry leaders, so we'll be putting those requests forward.
For us, we will take care of our people as we have to. If we end up with a situation where people have dikes that are failing or not there and they're at risk of flooding, we'll move as a community and bring that safety to them. But the whole thing here is this is where this starts. There is no other option. The option is you have a thing called DMAF, run it correctly, do exactly what it's supposed to do, and get our community safe again. So the only option here is to follow through with your commitments, release our tax funds to get our community safe. So this is where we start. This is just the start of all of this. I talked to my colleague Spencer Coyne, and if we have to fly to Ottawa and buy the crappiest lumber you can find, we'll build a lemonade stand on the floor in front of the House of Commons and sell lemonade for $75,000 a glass so we can rebuild our dikes. But I mean, it all depends where you want to go with this, because it's important that these three communities are taken care of. You made promises, so there is no other option other than the fact that you have a word, you spoke it, be upstanding and be there for these communities because you said you would be. It's that simple. There's nowhere else to go. You've already made the commitment. Now show me the money.
Exactly. No is not an answer. So Princeton right now, we've already been talks with, I've already spoken to a few ministers. We're already looking at what our next steps are and how do we move forward and what are the easy wins for us. Our engineers are looking at creating out a 5 to 20 year plan. If that's the case, we'll piecemeal this the best we can and move forward. The key here is we have a responsibility to keep our citizens safe. These are the same citizens that Ottawa has, and if they're not going to keep them safe, then we will.
If there are any reporters on site with any additional questions, we have time for one more. Okay, not seeing any other questions. That concludes today's event. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, I think we should.